Welcome back to O's Across the Pond, the world's biggest, if only, European Orioles fancast. I'm Simon in Teesside, home of Chris Rea and Whitesnake. Joining him this week from Merseyside, home of the Beatles, the Wombats and the Farm. Hi, Thomas.
Afternoon.
And from Glasgow, home of Primal Scream and Mogwai. Hi, Grant.
And many others. Hi, everybody.
And from Orpington, home of the Wild Hearts and Uncle Funk's Disco Inferno, which, yes, I did Google to get another one other than the Wild Hearts. Hi, Andy.
Good afternoon. And what better way to look at the Orioles looking after the Wild Hearts? So, good afternoon.
It's been another mixed bag in Birdland with some lows, some lower lows, and some green shoots if you look hard enough. We're going to reflect on the past week. We're also going to try and inspire and console you with some examples of some great comebacks, sporting and otherwise. And we're going to discuss another British sporting phrase you might be unfamiliar with, or at least what it's called. And we'll touch on the Muppets, which is maybe a first for an Orioles podcast. And we're going to look ahead with hope to the next week. And we're going to field some of your questions as well as listeners. So let's kick things off, Thomas, with a review of the Angels series so far as we record this just before Sunday evening's game. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so game one, I mean, at this moment in time, the only games I look forward to now watching the O's was when Big Uncle Tommy Sagano starts. I thought he was superb yet again. He is becoming quite a find. One that Mike Elias seems to have got right, the few and far between. Jackson Holiday, again, superb. We've seen some real, we keep talking about him and I possibly sound like his biggest fanboy at the moment, but he has been superb. Gunnar Henderson again, constantly improving. I think obviously you see the effects of him not having a proper spring training and missing out on spring training, and now is with his spring training being in April, you're really starting to see Gunnar getting back to where we know he can be. Negatives for me, the total opposite. I'm always mentioning Jackson Holiday and being his fanboy. I am probably Ryan Mancastle isn't on the top of my Christmas card list for this year at this moment in time. I think he's predictable. I think he's poor at the plate. I don't know what he's seeing. It's predictable. You know when, no matter what the count is, if it's 1-2 or 2-2, you know that the pitcher is going to throw a low and away ball, and Mountcastle will swing at it. I don't know whether he needs a tennis racket or whatever. I said the other day in the WhatsApp group, if he had a banjo, I don't think he could hit a cow's arse with it at the moment. But I think he's a Gold Glove first baseman, isn't he? So I'll give him that. And then Adley Rushman, we'll get onto him later on.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I must admit it does frustrate me at the plate as well. Yeah, he seems to, like you said, I don't know what he's seeing. It's everything and nothing at the same time. But Andy, what about your thoughts?
So I agree pretty much with everything Thomas said there. For some very strange reason, sleep evaded me on Saturday morning, and I managed to watch virtually the whole game from the second innings. Again, masterclass from Sagano, who down to a 2.72 ERA, and I agree, turning into a real gem. But the bats were again a problem, disguised in this win over what is an equally poorly performing Angels lineup. We were a disastrous 2 for 13 with our ISP, and the game should have been long out of sight before a bit of a shaky end for Cano and Aiken was worked through. The shining light of Batista at the end, looking like he'd never been away. He's lost 3 or 4 miles an hour on the velocity, but he collected his 7th save and a 1.64 ERA. So there are some green shoots, but the runners in scoring position is just absolutely appalling at the moment.
Yeah.
I think I would only add to that I think what is noticeable and what we're seeing is this trend that when Sagano is pitching, there's a platform and there is a wee bit more confidence, and we are getting the results. We are scoring enough runs to win a game generally when he's there. So that is a positive in that we've got that platform. Then we can just about get over the line. but there's so many games where we've not had that platform, and I think that has fed into the hitting, and that is one of the reasons why it is so fragile at the plate, because players don't have confidence in the pitching staff to do the job basically and give us a chance to win the game in many nights that we've watched.
And game 2, very early on, it seemed to settle into a familiar pattern very early. And I'm sure we've all seen the film Groundhog Day, but some of the games at the moment, that's what they sort of feel like to me. And I like to think of myself as a glass half full type of person most of the time. But is it a big factor, do you think? And is game 2 an example of where not getting off to good starts is just compounding the issues in terms of confidence and everything else? Is that how you see it, Grant?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the exact opposite of what happened on game 1 with Gibson just giving up a succession of singles and runs in the first inning and putting us behind the 8 ball early on. And much like the Twins game with the Buxton home run last week, as soon as that went 2-0 in the first inning, you're thinking, are we going to come back from this? And we just didn't. We got a few hits, but nothing major. We were 5-0 down by the time we got a run across, which really was a consolation, because we've just never mounted any kind of comeback of any note, even against, as we've discussed, a team relatively poor like the Angels, not a great bullpen. We should have been in that game and had chances to put some pressure on them, but didn't happen, as we've seen all too often.
And you have some thoughts about old Gibbo, don't you? One of our geriatrics that we seem to be relying on at the moment, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Elias. I don't know. I mean, I know he comes down with injuries and all that, but I just don't see the logic in us thinking of a 90-year-old Charlie Morton and a 70-year-old Kyle Gibson. How it works. Grant hit the nail on the head when he talked about when Chicago started. You can see that they're the games that we're winning. There's confidence. You just kind of see that when Gibson's pitching, or Charlie Morton, or pretty much anyone apart from, give D. Kramer his due. He's been decent. Povich has had 2 decent games, but Gibson just, it's just not great again. I mean, the positives, obviously, Jackson Holiday moved to lead off. I've been very, very vocal in the WhatsApp group about Jackson Holiday moving up the order a little bit. I didn't think he was going to get moved to lead off, but when you look at his stats and how he's been going, especially the last 2-3 weeks, it's well deserved. Obviously, said he had cooled off a little bit. Laureano was starting to see, some more good things from him. Another home run. Mounty had 2 hits last night, but again, I'm still not impressed. And there's a comment there about Adley struggles again, but I think a few of us are going to dive a bit deeper into that one later on.
Andy, have you got anything to add?
So just to pick up exactly the same sort of things, obviously we're watching the same games. Adley, Cedric combined 0 for 8 in this game after being 0 for 10 on the night before. You really need the production from those two if we're going to be looking at anywhere getting towards even 500 for the season. I think Adley's now batting something in the 190s, which is just absolutely crazy. The bullpen came in and did okay. Selby pitched an inning and 2/3. I would expect him to be sent down after last night to allow Zach Eflin to come up for today's game. Again, Perez came in, 2 walks, still looking very shaky. Little positive, Charlie Morton came in and did 2 innings at the end with nothing to show. So there's some little things, if they can get things right, then we could start to see something a little bit better. But it was pretty awful. We only had 3 runners in scoring position yesterday night. We got 6 hits, so 0 for 3 on the runners in scoring position pretty much tells the tale as well.
Yeah, Yeah, credit where credit's due, I suppose, with Morton. Although he set the bar extremely low, he did do that job. So that's something, isn't it? And Jim Palmer was talking about, that's the way to potentially get a bit of confidence and control back. And I think Perez, like you said, with those walks, he got a couple of lucky calls as well, or it would have looked even worse in the box, I think. So, he continues to struggle. But again, if we're not going to put runs on the board, it's almost a moot point, isn't it? I know, Grant, you've touched on that in previous episodes. So if I'm sure we've completely cheered all our listeners up now with that, with that review. It's a bit of a counselling session at the moment, these podcasts. So